Okay, I'm proud to open the conference, and I'm happy to introduce Bill, Chairman. Un applauso. It was a strong work. I have the honor to work with him, to suggest him this location of Assisi. And I am happy to introduce Frate Dario for the welcome. He's of the community of friars of Santa Maria degli Angeli. I don't know if there is some people from California, from Los Angeles. Los Angeles is Santa Maria de Los Angeles, la Porciuncula di Assisi. Short name is Los Angeles. Here, okay. You are in your roots, in the origin of this city. Frate Dario, come in and give us a welcome, please.
Thank you. As member of the Franciscan community, I would like to welcome each of you. A conference can take place everywhere, but I do hope that Assisi will help you more, because one of our places in the Eremo delle Carceri, it has three statues that explain the attitude to see the universe. Is the poet, is the scientist, of course, and another one who has the contemplation. So I hope that this place will help you to have a better approach to this matter, to the sciences. And my sincere wish is that your conference goes well and enable you to share your knowledge together. So have a nice time here, and also in our Domus Pacis, we are glad you choose our place to make your conference. Thank you.
Thank you, Frate Dario. Okay, and I think that a little bit later, and we start soon with the conference of Bill Collis. Please.
Thank you very much, Claudio. And I must thank you also for your wonderful support over the last year in helping the community prepare for this conference. In fact, I'd like to give you all my thanks for coming today. I'm very honored and happy to see you all here. In particular, I would like to thank the Russians for coming. I think this is the first time in about 5 years we've seen so many Russians at an ICCF. So what is so special, what is different about ICCF22? I like to think it's economical due to the economies of scale. What that means is by taking over almost all the facilities of this conference center, the hotel themselves feel that their resources are being used very efficiently. And as a result, they can also give us very good rates. I think this is one of the cheapest conferences in a hotel, though I have to say last year in Colorado was also very economical as well. I think that was a very popular conference, and I owe a debt to the two chairmen, David Nagel and Steve Katinsky, who showed the way. The sincerest form of flattery is supposed to be imitation, and I hope I will be imitating in some way. A fine example. So we have a package solution where everyone is staying in the same self-contained conference center. What that really means is you don't have to wander away to a separate conference hall. You don't disperse people to different restaurants at midday or in the evening. Effectively, we catalyze a kind of friendly social networking, which is half the point of any conference, in my opinion. The formal sessions and the posters are all very well, but a lot of good work is done in the evening. And in fact, there's going to be an open bar every evening now, except the, the evening of the banquet. So you're all welcome after dinner to go upstairs to the hotel foyer, where there's just ask for a drink at the bar, and it's yours. Only drinks, though. No food, no gifts, or anything like that. On Thursday evening, there will be the banquet, which is themed on the Renaissance. So it will be Renaissance music. Some people might be even wearing Renaissance costumes, and it'll be under the trees, shall we say, in the garden. But in case it's bad weather, there will be some canvas, and if it's really bad weather, we'll move the banquet inside. Okay. So that's at. All the evening meals start at 7 o'clock, and on the banquet we'll start with an aperitif on the patio, again behind the hotel, and we'll then move on to our tables. At the banquet, we'll be awarding the Giuliano Preparata Medal. This is a silver medal made in honor of the Italian theoretical physicist Giuliano Preparata, who died in 2000. It's a surprise who is going to get the medal, but I hope to surprise you pleasantly. I should also mention there will be a bronze medal awarded for the best poster paper. There are a few extra poster slots. If you go into the poster room, you'll see them. So I would guess that you can just help yourself to those on a first-come, first-served basis, because even if you're presenting an oral paper, it's quite helpful to have a poster paper. People can ask you questions. You can explain things in much more time than the usual 5 minutes at the end of the oral presentations. And there will be a vote to decide who gets the medal. As the poster sessions will be on Wednesday afternoon, it'd be a good idea to get your vote in by Wednesday evening, because we'll count the votes on the Thursday and present the medal, as I say, at the banquet. I don't know what. Again, as I repeat, the meals are all included in this conference. Breakfast will start at 7, I think. I think that's right. Lunch is always at 1, and the evening meal is always at 7. It's a good idea to be punctual, because the restaurant staff are very busy, and you can't come at any time at all, except maybe last night, to find a meal. I hope there are some accompanying persons here, companions, because there are lots of very good things to do in the neighborhood. In particular, you can just walk into the town. We're right in the center here, as you've all seen. The Basilica is only a 4 minutes walk away, and that's definitely worth a look. And if you go down on the right aisle of the church, you'll find directions to the so-called Rose Garden, which is also quite pretty and nice. In addition, there'll be some other excursions. Oops. Okay, I'm getting ahead of myself here. I think I'll come to an excursion slide in a moment. As usual, the proceedings of the conference will be published in the Journal of Condensed Matter Nuclear Science, and Jean-Paul is the editor of that. I guess most of you already know, have already published in this electronic journal. Some people like to have a certificate of attendance. It says International Workshop on Anomalies, but don't pay any attention to that. There's one specially for this conference. You can pin it up on the wall, or you can justify to your employer that you haven't really been on holiday. If you need to get any help, there's usually somebody either at the office or at the registration desk in the foyer, or ask anybody wearing an ICCF22 shirt that identifies them as staff. And I'm very grateful to Elettra and Asia. Thank you very much. Where are you? Right at the back. No, it's okay, it's okay. Yes, thank you. Super. The girls will be passing around the microphone if you've got any questions. There's a radio microphone. You'll note that I haven't distributed workshop program, the conference program yet, but it's on the notice board outside. It's also on the website. So if you've got a phone, you can look at what's on the program from your phone. If anybody wants a written copy, that's fine. I can print one out. And if anyone wants changes to the program for any reason, and it's quite likely there will be reasons, because there's a tendency for people to miss their flights, arrive late, and miss their assigned slot. So we're all prepared for changes in the program. And that is one of the reasons why I don't go to all the trouble of printing a program, which is going to change anyway. Getting back after the workshop, leave your requirements, your flight details, with a member of the staff, and we'll look, and you can find your own train timetable, which is quite convenient. Many people came by train yesterday, but there may be some other special arrangements. If you're in trouble and want to get to the station, even though it's only 10 minutes away, we might be able to find a car which can take you rather than paying for a taxi. A workshop again, sorry. So feedback is gratefully accepted. Thank you. Thanks to the sponsors too. I managed to have left out of here Nick Energy, who's the fourth sponsor. And a final reminder, in Italy, smoking is not allowed in any public building. And so that means basically you can only smoke in a private home. So if you need to smoke, just go outside into the gardens, or if it's raining, and in the shelter of the entrance. Okay, I've got some personal remarks to make, so I'm really abusing my position as chairman to make these. And then because they're personal, you might not agree, but you're welcome to make some questions or comments afterwards. And I thought to myself, what are the fundamental milestones, and this is a very personal view, over the last 30 years of cold fusion? And I think the discovery, the publication of anomalous excess heat back in 1989 by Martin Fleischmann and Stanley Pons stands out as a fundamental discovery, claim, call it whatever you like. And the excess heat was such that it could not be explained by any chemical or physical phenomenon. And so by default, it was considered to be nuclear. I think that view is correct still after 30 years. And it was confirmed in part in 1991 by Mel Miles's correlation with helium-4 production. And the third milestone, as I see it, was for the first time the consumption of a fuel, in particular cesium by Iwamura, and the concomitant production of praseodymium. That struck me as, for the first time, we saw the simultaneous consumption of a fuel and the production of a product. It's such a pity that this kind of work has not been repeated for other systems, like the hydrogen-nickel system, for example. So where have we failed in all this? We haven't really identified fuels. No one's pretending that the excess heat we measure is coming from cesium, but some of it might be. We can't be sure that deuterium is a fuel. No one has demonstrated the consumption of deuterium. And in the case of the light water experiments, there isn't enough deuterium in some of them to justify the excess heat produced, because gigajoules of energy have been measured, and there isn't enough deuterium in a rarefied small volume of natural hydrogen. I'm thinking there particularly of Piantelli's results. So I think that really shows that there's some very fundamental and useful information is still not available to us. And this is because we can only identify reactions by knowing what the reactants and products are. And if you don't know what the reactions are, it's very difficult to develop a theory. And if you don't have a theory, it's very difficult to refine, improve any device. And of course, if you don't have a device to show, you can't get any funding. And it's a vicious circle. If you're without any funding, you're not going to do any of these things. So somehow we have to break out of this vicious circle. I also think there's somewhat an obsession with excess heat. And by that I mean excess heat by itself. If you're still doing an experiment to demonstrate some excess heat, I don't think that's particularly useful scientifically anymore. It was very useful 30 years ago, but we should mature and move on. Moving on means getting correlated measurements. And even if you're a garage researcher, there are many things you could do to identify these correlations. For example, you could add lithium or not to your electrolyte. This is a really cheap little thing, and if you could show that it works with lithium and it doesn't work with sodium or potassium or whatever, you've demonstrated something. There's a tendency also with this excess heat obsession to get rich quick, or to get famous quick. And we've seen, unfortunately, here in Italy over the last 10 years or so, one particular gentleman who has followed that strategy. I won't mention any names. Another failing, as I see it, is the reluctance to test theories. So when you read an experimental paper, you very rarely hear that the purpose of the paper was to test a theory. Very, very rare, I think. And there's a reluctance of the theorists, which probably explains this. Again, it's a vicious circle. Theorists are unwilling to make clear predictions as to what their theory actually says in terms of laboratory work. At the Toulouse workshop a few years ago, I remarked there hasn't been, during the entire workshop, not a single nuclear reaction was cited. And I think that's an appalling condemnation of being distracted from the real problems, the real scientific problems of this field. So here are some examples then of some correlations which could be reasonably done without a vast expense. First of all, you want to make a note of all the elements in your system. And I've mentioned, of course, palladium, lithium, boron, platinum, whatever. If you've got glass, you've got silica and sodium and the rest. You might find that in a different container, that results are different. And you don't even know that it's not the container which is producing heat. For example, I spoke to Mark Snoswell the other night, and he was saying, well, we've got this heat-producing Constantan wire, but it was the titanium container which showed an anomalous thermal effect. That suggests there might be something going on inside the titanium. This has to be documented properly. And it would be so easy, wouldn't it, to get an isotopic analysis done of that titanium, maybe by neutron activation or by mass spec. Another very easy thing to measure is radiation. Even a simple Geiger counter will tell you qualitatively that there is some kind of radiation. They can measure gammas in particular quite easily. Betas ought to get into a Geiger counter, and if it's sufficiently sophisticated, it's possibly alphas. If you can afford it, you could try scintillating your electrolyte or your liquid. Normally that's used for tritium, but there are plenty of other beta emitters. Some of them produce exactly the same energy as tritium, and consequently, you shouldn't assume that just because you're counting tritium, that it actually is tritium. Keep an open mind. The nature of the reactions might be quite different. You're looking at me strangely, Jacques. For example, plutonium has an isotope, beta decaying isotope, with exactly the same energy as tritium. So if you're doing these tritium counts in a nuclear establishment, it's just possible some contamination. Or it's possible that plutonium is in some way producing some heat. I'm exaggerating. Okay, thank you very much. That brings me to the end of my personal and provocative remarks.
Any question?
Hello? You spoke about the fuel. The fuel. F-U-E-L.
Excuse me.
Fuel, yes.
Fuel, yeah. The problem is not the fuel, but how you use it. The problem is the amount of energy per unit time and unit volume. So any fuel is okay, we use the ultrasound, we use the liquid, we use the solid, but the problem is the amount of energy per unit time, unit volume.
Okay, I disagree completely. Because this is this is an example of being obsessed with getting heat without understanding the scientific basis. If we believe there's a nuclear reaction, there must be a nuclear fuel. If we can identify that nuclear fuel and maybe some nuclear products, we can identify the overall reaction, we can elaborate that into a theory, and so on. But just to say, oh yes, if I apply so much energy, then I will get more energy out regardless, that's not a good recipe. I mean, or if it is a recipe, we don't understand why it works.
Yeah, but it's not a problem of fuel, but how to use it. Any fuel is okay. Any method is okay.
If you can't
the problem is the amount of energy per unit time.
If you can't identify the fuel, you may produce no energy, and that's half the problem.
Allow me to contribute something to that, Bill. The tertiary effect is heat. The secondary effect is the nuclear transmutations, but the primary effect is the energy localization that causes that transmutation. So if we want to take a look at this in a sensible way, heat is the wrong place to be doing it. Nuclear transmutation certainly gives you a good handle on heat, but you don't get a good handle on nuclear transmutations until you understand how the energy is localized in the system.
How would measuring excess heat help you in the least to refine your system? It's old hat now. It's done 30 years ago. It was very important. It's not important anymore by itself. You must make it correlated with something else.
I must say I applaud your comments on the measurement of particle radiation. We have in our laboratory managed to use gammas as a signal of they are the smoke from the nuclear fire, if you like. And Geiger counters are not expensive, can be exquisitely sensitive, and are relatively easy if you have time and enough equipment to calibrate precisely. So they are a very good indicator of when you hit the sweet spot with a fuel mix or so on, or temperature. And we found them to be both a predictive tool and because no gamma activity in our systems tends to show us there's never going to be any gamma activity. The reason we chose it initially was one of expense. Calorimetry is much more expensive than gamma measurement, and backed up with a gamma spec as well. We've managed to see some very useful data. We've managed to collect useful data, which has helped us to actually refine the work that we do.
I am happy to introduce Stefania Proietti. She's the Major of Assisi, and she comes here for welcome. Thanks, Stefania. Please.
Good morning to all, and welcome in Assisi for this important international conference. I'm very happy, and many congratulations to the chairman and organizers, the Professor Pace. I know very well, he's a Umbria citizen, and the Professor Bill. Thank you very much. I'm very happy that you are here because in my past life, as I said, I was a researcher in the energy field. I was a mechanical engineer. I'm a mechanical engineer, energy engineer, and I study in particular the climate change and the mitigation systems to meet the mitigation system for climate change. So nuclear energy is very important, and the innovation in nuclear energy and nuclear system are very important for us, for all us, also for us as administrator of cities, of countries, of the world. So I'm very happy that you are here, and please enjoy Assisi in all the things that you can see, because you are in the capital of the ecologists. San Francesco was 40 years ago named a patron and a protector of all the ecologists in the world. So you are inside this category if you study to be better the world. Thank you very much. Welcome in Assisi. Enjoy Assisi. And please, a good job for the new energy and the new future. Thank you very much.
Thanks.